Well, Boeing is in talks about a potential reacquisition of Spirit AeroSystems. It's a key supplier for the 737 MAX jet. Now, this potential deal comes as Boeing faces a lawsuit from passengers who were on the Alaska Airlines flight when a section of that Boeing 737 MAX 9 jet blew out shortly following a takeoff. We want to bring in Tony Bancroft. He's Gabelli Fund's commercial aerospace and defense ETF portfolio manager here to join and talk to us a little bit more about what this would mean here for Boeing, Spirit AeroSystems, excuse me there. Tony, let's talk about why this would make sense. Does this make sense for Boeing to potentially reacquire Spirit AeroSystems?
Yeah, thanks for having me back, Shauna. Yeah, I think it does make sense in the long term. I think near term, there's going to be no silver bullet. You're going to see some probably integration, hiccups and fits and starts as two large entities try to combine, like any large merger. Yeah, but I think over the long term, before the pandemic, 80% of Spirit's sales were to Boeing. So it's essentially is an entity of Boeing, and obviously it was an entity of Boeing before 2004. And I think taking out some of the traveled work, the transport from Wichita to Renton of the fuselages, and streamlining the businesses, getting a culture together, and the synergies that you probably gain from those. It's going to be a long term. I think there's a lot of opportunities, to combine their operations and get some more efficiencies and more opportunities for the two companies. So I think in the long term, we're going to see this as be a good thing for Boeing.
Does this ultimately remediate some of the quality assurance issues that have come to light and that investors still have questions about within the broader manufacturing process here? Yeah,
that's a good point, Brett. I think the impetus for this probably was, for all intents and purposes, was the recent incident. What they released from the initial NTSB report was that there was some rework going on from the Spirit plant at the Boeing facility, and I think there's probably a thought process, and I think the FAA Administrator Whitaker probably alluded to that in sort of behind the scene talks with Boeing, that you sort of own the jet from soup to nuts, and I think Boeing probably took that to heart, and it just makes sense. Imagine if GM were to have a third party build its chassis versus in Flint, Michigan, or essentially any other company, large manufacturing company. I think it's just a natural way to do business, to own such a large part of your manufacturing process.